In 1979, a 6-year-old boy disappeared on his way to his school bus stop in Manhattan's Soho neighborhood and was never seen again. His case inspired a national movement to find missing children. He was one of the first children to appear on milk cartons as part of the Missing Children campaign.
All right, his name was Etan Patz, and this is how the news covered his disappearance, the search to find him, and the investigation that led to an arrest.
It was a school day in May, and the first day Etan was allowed to walk to the school bus stop alone when he vanished.
Police have another investigation in progress now. This one, a search centered in Lower Manhattan for a 6-year-old boy who disappeared yesterday.
6-year-old Etan Patz left home to go to school early yesterday morning. He never got there. Police have scoured a mile-square area around Greenwich Village in Soho, checking rooftops, alleyways, and rear yards. But the young boy's sudden disappearance is still a mystery.
He was seen yesterday morning on his way to the school bus. We've determined that he didn't take the school bus, and he was seen sometime yesterday afternoon after 4 o'clock in the neighborhood.
What do his parents say about him? Has he ever done anything like this before?
No, not at all. He seems to be a pretty good kid, and there doesn't seem to be any reason for it.
Etan used to make one stop every day, the corner candy store. Juan Santana was one of the last people to see the boy. He says Etan was in the company of a little girl. When did you last see the boy?
Thursday.
Who was he with?
Hmm?
He was with another boy?
Another girl, the girl.
Did you see him every day?
I see him every day. Take the bus over here.
You think he's the kind of kid who would run away?
I don't know. In this way, I can tell you.
After an exhaustive search using helicopters and bloodhounds over a 20-square block area of Manhattan, police have so far drawn a blank, and the search continues. At this point, they are asking your help in locating this boy.
3 months later, the search to find Etan continued with leads coming into the police department from all over the country.
It'll be 3 months tomorrow since a small boy vanished from the streets of Manhattan. Everybody in his neighborhood down in Soho tried to help. The posters with his picture went up all over the city. So far, still no trace of Etan Patz. Chris spent some time tonight with the boy's parents.
3 months may not seem like a long time, but it can be an eternity. It has been just that for many who have been praying and searching and waiting for anything to turn up, anything that will tell them where 6-year-old Etan Patz can be found. 3 months ago, the little boy went off to wait for his school bus just 2 blocks from his home on Prince Street in Soho. He was seen at 5 minutes to 8 in the morning on the corner of Prince and Worcester. He has not been seen since. By now, just about everyone who walks the streets of New York has seen the poster saying that the child has still not been found. And every day for 3 months, Detective Bill Butler and 3 other city policemen do nothing else but try to find him.
We've had numerous leads. We've had leads from all over the country. This has been published nationally. Up to now, we don't have anything concrete.
What about theories? Everyone you speak to still talks about this case. Everybody has their own theory. What's yours?
Everybody has their own idea. As far as I'm concerned, I can't see any evidence, there is no evidence that anything detrimental has happened to this boy.
There have been many leads from all over the country. Every time we appear in the media, we get leads, phone calls in from all over the country.
Do many people think that Etan has actually been found, or are they aware that he's still missing?
There are still many people who feel he's been found for 2 reasons. First, there has been media publicity to that effect. Secondly, there are many street rumors, simply because there's lack of any information about it. Street rumors start. And the length of time. They feel that after this amount of time, he simply must be home by now. He's not.
Julie Patz has 2 other children. She says her 3-year-old boy makes up fantasy games. His favorite is to find Etan and put him in his pocket so he won't get lost again. Her 9-year-old girl can't fantasize about her missing brother. According to Mrs. Patz, the girl, in just 3 months, has grown old. Christopher Jones, Channel 5 News.
What happened to Etan? 1 year later, the little boy from Soho was still missing.
The parents of another boy have not seen their son for a year now. Still, they hope and pray, even though his disappearance is as much a mystery now as it was last year.
Spring again, it's May, here on Prince Street, just a year after a little boy disappeared and an ordeal began for his mother and father. Even in the asphalt and brick landscape of Soho, signs of spring abound. Young leaves on the tree, the lunch break, the end of winter hibernation, hope in the air, good feelings. But Etan Patz is still missing. He disappeared last May 25th when he was 6. He'd be 7 now. Etan on his way to meet the school bus on West Broadway, his mother watching from the fire escape until he disappeared from view, right about where a banner proclaims this weekend's Soho Festival. Julie Patz hasn't seen her son since. We remember interviewing the parents a year ago.
If someone does have him and is caring for him, we wish them no harm, and we just want our boy back.
Unfortunately, it's not much different now. The calls still come in. The Patz's number is deliberately listed. They don't want to miss anything. A fair amount of calls come from self-styled psychics or people with vivid dreams, some obviously deranged. Any lead with the slightest ring of truth, checked carefully by police. What possibly could have happened? Was the boy kidnapped by a man or a woman who wanted a child? Is Etan alive? After tens of thousands of police man-hours spent investigating, nobody knows anything substantial. Is it possible there could still be a vital clue right in the neighborhood?
Feel that there is still a New York connection, that there is someone maybe right in this neighborhood, maybe right on this street. We feel that there is someone who knows something, not necessarily someone who is involved, but someone who may know something that could provide that first essential clue.
They're grateful for the many letters and calls, for the many people who've prayed.
All over the country. It's wonderful. They've helped hold us up and keep us hopeful.
And so they wait, wonder, hope. We must go on, she says. We intend to have some fun this summer, maybe visit friends in Fire Island. But it sounds as though she's trying to talk herself into it. This is Gay Pressman, Channel 5 News.
3 years after Etan vanished, an arrest revived interest in the case.
It's a hauntingly familiar picture, a little 6-year-old boy who vanished on a street in the Soho section of Manhattan. That was almost 3 years ago. Etan Patz is still missing, and no trace of him has been found yet. But an arrest in the Bronx yesterday has again revived interest in the case. A man named Jose Ramos is charged with petty larceny, a misdemeanor. Police believe there is a possibility that Mr. Ramos might be able to provide them with leads in the case. John Miller reports.
It's a mile-long stretch along Webster Avenue in the Bronx. A cemetery runs along one side, a fence runs along the other side, enclosing the Conrail tracks. 300 feet down a hill from the gate, we found a pipe where police say Jose Ramos lived.
On Tuesday, I believe it was, we arrested this individual for a larceny of school books from a child on White Plains Road. He asked the child to come into the tunnel so he could give him back his books. At that time, the child was a little sharp. He refused, and he called the police department. We came over here, we found his books, but the individual wasn't here. Come back the following day, and he was here, and that's when we placed him under arrest.
This afternoon, detectives, assisted by officers from the Emergency Service Division, went into the pipe and started pulling things out. They found a wide assortment of items: pornographic magazines, homosexual magazines, photographs, and a good quantity of children's clothing and dolls. The pictures, however, were the most intriguing aspect of the search. Who were these children? How did Ramos know them? In some of the photographs, Ramos posed with the children, hugging them. Ramos reportedly told investigators that these children were his friends. In the garbage near Mr. Ramos's pipe, I found a letter addressed to Mr. Ramos, sent to him at an address on East 4th Street on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. That address is not far from the place where Etan Patz disappeared in May of 1979. In fact, the letter is also dated in that year. Bronx District Attorney Mario Marola was asked about the possibility that Mr. Ramos might provide leads in the Patz case.
The man at one point carried an address in Manhattan not far from where the Patz family lived. And B, I understand that an acquaintance of his was that boy's babysitter at one point.
This is information, obviously, that has to be looked at and examined and followed to wherever it leads us to. We proceed by investigating each and every lead that we do have. We have a man who's approximately 38 years of age. We've been able to, as a result of a search, determine that he's had a passport, which would indicate that he had gone to France last August. We know that he has lured 2 young children to this particular tunnel. We know that he has pictures of half a dozen or more young people. We also know that he has a psychiatric history.
So investigators have a pile of clues to work with, but clues to what? Mr. Ramos has been referred by the court for psychiatric examination. Police hope to use that time to investigate. John Miller, Channel 5 News.
A decade later, the disappearance of Etan Patz was still an open case.
It's 10 years since a little boy vanished off the streets of Soho in Manhattan. 10 years of never being far away in the thoughts of his parents. 10 years of growing public awareness of the plight of missing children, starting with this case. Barbara Laskin reports it's still an open case for the police.
You had a child who was swiped in front of his home, and we couldn't find this child, and we haven't been able to find him yet. And it's the kind of tragedy that gets people's attention.
I really don't know why this case has captured the public's imagination. I do know, however, that it has captured the public's imagination like no other.
Indeed, from the very moment Etan Patz vanished exactly 10 years ago, hardly a day goes by without someone, somewhere, calling police and claiming to have spotted him.
Because of the tremendous publicity in this case, many leads, many sightings, literally thousands of sightings, all over the United States, every state in the Union, even foreign countries. Mexico.
Every single lead is investigated, says Davis, and few calls are prank calls. People sincerely want to find this beautiful boy with the electrifying smile, even though the odds are against it.
It has never happened in the history of this department that a person missing that long has been found alive.
Etan Patz was 6 years old when he disappeared. Police say he was abducted right here on Prince Street as he walked from his home here in Soho 2 blocks down to his bus stop on West Broadway. From that day forth, Etan Patz became case number 8367, and no one who knew him has ever seen him since. But the effort to find him was mammoth. Hundreds of police officers were used. Pictures of Etan seemed to be everywhere. And his anguished parents, Julie and Stan, became a part of our consciousness too. They, like their child, are terrible victims, and though they have not given up hope, they have ceased to give interviews to the media. However, Stan Patz agreed to share these previously unreleased photos of his son with Fox News. And for the first time, he has given his permission for a Chicago company to do a computer-enhanced age progression picture of Etan. And so, here is what Etan might look like if he is still alive at age 16. In the 10 years since his disappearance, we have learned much about those who kidnap children.
They don't fit into the classic mode of the dirty old man, that they can be anyone. I think we now have a much scarier situation where...
Well, why would they steal someone else's child?
For a lot of different reasons. Probably the primary motivation has to do with sexual needs of one type or the other, either to sexually exploit the child with someone else or to sexually abuse the child themselves.
Although law enforcement officials say most abducted children are killed soon after they're kidnapped, some are found. Miracles do happen.
There are the cases where children have been kept for years and years and finally have escaped. So you can always hold out hope that your child fits in that category.
In New York, Barbara Laskin, Fox News, Channel 5.
In 2002, the case was closed.
23 years after he disappeared from the streets of Soho, the Etan Patz case is now officially closed. The Manhattan DA's office says that it cannot bring criminal charges against the prime suspect because of a lack of evidence. Etan Patz was 6 years old when he disappeared in 1979. His case inspired a national movement to find missing children. Patz's father calls the DA's decision not to prosecute disappointing.
In 2004, a convicted child molester who was in jail denied his involvement, but a judge thought differently.
A child molester who is in prison now says he had nothing to do with the disappearance of Etan Patz. The 6-year-old disappeared 24 years ago in Lower Manhattan. Patz' parents are suing Jose Ramos for wrongful death. In a court-ordered deposition, he denied kidnapping the boy. Right now, Ramos is in prison for sexually abusing an 8-year-old.
Alrighty, thanks for joining us tonight. We just told you that a judge has ruled that a convicted child molester already in jail is responsible for the 1979 disappearance and death of little Etan Patz. Now, on the phone with us right now live is Etan's father, Stanley Patz. Mr. Patz, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Alrighty. Does this bring a little bit of closure to this tragedy for your family, the fact that the judge has ruled that this child molester, Jose Ramos, is in fact responsible for your son's death?
We're pleased with the judicial decision. It's not everything we hoped for, but it is a step toward assigning liability to this man.
Now, he could still be released in 2012. What's your feeling about that?
Well, I'm hoping that he will serve his entire sentence. I thought it was 2013, and there's a possibility he'll be convicted on other things.
You know, we can only imagine what your family has been through since 1979, since your young son disappeared. What have the past few years been like for you, leading up to this point?
I guess that's a question that requires a long answer. We have survived, and we're going on with our lives as best we can.
All right. Mr. Patz, thank you so much. I know this is extremely painful and difficult for your family, and we do appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
The case was reopened in 2010, and in 2012, a major search was launched in Soho.
FBI agents and New York City police officers put up a blue tent to block the view, while nearly 100 of them began what an ex-agent calls an archaeological-like dig for evidence, digging up the concrete floor of the entire basement of 127 Prince Street, 806 square feet, digging for evidence connected to the disappearance of then 6-year-old Etan Patz in 1979, the case that put missing children on milk cartons. This is the first break in decades.
We have good information that led to the probable cause, again, that led to the search warrant, and we take the information seriously.
Etan was last seen by his mother on this street as he walked to school on his own for the first time. He disappeared from this one block. New York City police say the thorough dig will take 5 days as they seek
human remains, clothing, or personal effects that may lead us to the whereabouts of Etan Patz, who disappeared from this street on May 25, 1979.
Etan Patz's parents still live a half a block away from the evidence dig, in the same apartment they shared with their son. Their friends say it was their persistence that pushed Manhattan DA Cyrus Vance to reopen the case 2 years ago.
They continued to push and have part of the campaign promise of the candidates to reopen the case. And this would be a cold case if it weren't for the parents. And they never let it go.
For decades, law enforcement assumed a drifter named Jose Ramos was responsible for Etan's disappearance. But sources say a month ago, FBI agents showed pictures of 2 other possible suspects to neighborhood residents, a carpenter and a handyman who worked here in 1979 and had access to the basement now being searched.
Are there new suspects?
I'm not going to comment on that.
They've shown new pictures of new possible suspects. Is that accurate?
I'm not going to comment on any suspects in the case. There's been no arrests in this case.
A former cold case FBI agent says the evidence must be very strong for this big a search. He adds, often in cold cases, decades later, friends of the killer are willing to talk.
And somebody very easily had a change of heart. Somebody that was perhaps a significant other of one of the suspects could have had a falling out, may have passed away. Relationships change, especially in 30 years.
I hope they find an answer. It's a haunting story, and I remember it very well. It was really traumatic for the neighborhood.
It was day 4 for FBI agents and NYPD detectives in their search through the walls and floors of a basement for clues, or even the remains of 6-year-old Etan Patz. He left his parents' loft here on Prince Street one morning nearly 33 years ago and was never seen again.
Etan was the first big
missing child that got national attention, you know, and it's just horrible.
Law enforcement sources tell me interviews with confidential informants and others, along with a scent of human remains picked up by an FBI cadaver dog, led to this painstaking underground operation.
Fundamentally, it's about going carefully through dirt and sifting it carefully and looking for evidence.
While NYPD and FBI investigators sift through the rubble and dirt, more than half a dozen businesses remain closed on Prince Street. But no one here seemed to mind, especially if it will finally bring answers.
It's kind of heartening to know that after so many years he's not forgotten and the search goes on.
The search scene is just half a block from where the boy lived. For longtime residents, there's renewed hope that one of the biggest mysteries in city history could finally be solved, and that there will be closure for Etan's heartbroken parents.
I mean, the parents have been living with this for over 30 years. It's horrible. I can't imagine what it must be like for them.
On this fifth day, police and FBI investigators wrapped up their dig, leaving with 2 dumpsters filled with the floor and debris removed from the basement of 127 Prince Street. They left with no skeleton, clothes, or any clear sign of 6-year-old Etan Patz, who disappeared 33 years ago from this block.
It ended with no obvious human remains being found and a remains a missing person investigation.
Investigators did find traces of hair, although sources say they're not even sure if it's human. They also isolated 2 stains on the concrete they initially thought might be blood, but sources say preliminary tests indicate it may not be. The concrete from the basement floor will be examined and stored in Freshkill, Staten Island. The dirt and the rest are being processed at the FBI labs in Quantico, Virginia.
Bottom line, it doesn't look too good.
Former FBI cold case agent Manuel Gomez says so far it appears little useful evidence was found, though the investigation will most probably continue.
The next logical step in this case would be to continue interviewing and talking to old witnesses, anybody that was involved in this case.
The agents, when they showed people things, they showed 2 pictures. One of this handyman, but another guy, a young white guy with blonde hair in his 20s. Would they go back and start checking for him?
Sure. They'll use any and all techniques to try to ascertain, to try to drive out of these old witnesses or potential persons of interest.
Nearly 38 years after 6-year-old Etan Patz vanished, a suspect had his day in court and a guilty verdict sends him to prison.
I'm really grateful that this jury finally came back with what I have known for a long time, that this man, Pedro Hernandez, is guilty of doing something really terrible so many years ago.
Deliberations were difficult, but I think we had constructive conversations based in logic.
Prosecutors from the Manhattan DA's office praise the family's courage and say it powered their determination to get them justice. The prosecution was unusually challenging because Etan's body was never found. There was no sophisticated DNA evidence or video surveillance footage back in 1979 when it happened. But after reviewing the tape confessions over and over again, the jurors were convinced Hernandez was telling the truth and that it was not a delusional story by a mentally ill man. His attorney says there are many grounds for an appeal.
I hate to say it, but we're confident we'll be back here someday.
My wife and I don't think we ever believed that we could come to this point, that we would ever actually find out what happened to our child.
After almost 38 years and 2 trials, the father of Etan Patz says they are glad they have come to the end of this road.
I was a little angry today at the perpetrator. A nameless, faceless person for decades. Now I know what the face of evil looks like.
Back in February, 56-year-old Pedro Hernandez was found guilty of kidnapping and murdering 6-year-old Etan Patz back in 1979. It was Hernandez's second trial after the first one ended with a hung jury.
In this case, we clearly did not give up. And because of that and the support of the Patz family, justice was finally meted out today.
The courtroom was packed as Hernandez was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. He had no reaction. His lawyers maintaining his innocence, telling the judge and the Patz family that Hernandez wants to let them know that he's an innocent man.
He's maintaining his innocence, probably on advice of counsel.
Etan disappeared in May of 1979. He went off to school and never returned. His body was never found. The case changed the way parents felt about allowing their kids to do things alone. In 2012, there was a break in the case. A relative of Hernandez called police and told them Hernandez had been telling people he killed a child in New York. In videotaped confessions, Hernandez said he lured Etan into a bodega he worked in Soho. He promised him a soda and then killed him. However, Hernandez's attorneys argued he was mentally ill.
This man has confessed. I lost track. This man has confessed to virtually anybody who would listen to him, maybe a dozen times, some of it extremely graphically.
And that was the news then.